I like finding a movie that's as sad as myself. It's like finding more of that extended family you wish you had, except not people. It's this special kind of coziness you find in some of your bestest childhood dreams. It's like that imaginary friend manifested by some director who either just so happened to match your vibe or just knew of all the perfect ingredients to have us sad boys be heard. So I'm too old for imaginary friends. I hear there's that part of your brain responsible for those that slowly weakens the older you get until it dies with all of your hopes and dreams. I think it happens around the age of 21. Your sleep paralysis demon doesn't count, but he is good replacement since unlike your imaginary friends, your demon is very real, but he won't hurt you. He's not going anywhere. The good news keep piling up, don't they? Might as well befriend him. Mine looks like this. Turns out he's got pretty good taste in film. We watched them together sometimes, and between him reminding me of that Spike Jonze movie and me feeling that it had the perfect look I'd want for that HTTYD live action film, I just had to jump right into it, and now I'm mad at my demon for not warning me of the feverishly dreamlike emotional gun punch that was this film. You ever watch something and a character shows up making you think, oh wow, I'm him, and then another character shows up and you're like, oh wow, I'm him. And then what you thought to be a simple vibe movie turns into this impromptu intervention by fragments of yourself in the shape of characters from a children's book brought to life by this psycho Spike Jonze. I vividly recall hearing that chant playing over and over on my living room TV between commercials as an elementary kid and not at all scared by the mascots, basically what sold the film, but something in my brain quietly told me that the joy I got out of movies would not be found in this fine looking feature. Even my developing brain managed to intercept the dominating melancholy all over this one, repelling me from even daring to ask my dad to get us to see it. So like the rest of the world, I forgot about it until November 2nd, 2024. Posting about it, I realized that this movie wasn't forgotten at all and that the people had a surprising amount of baggage to unload about it, which was a relief because I don't think I could have done this alone. I did feel like I put this huge target on top of my sad little heart the moment I sat down for this one. I just wasn't aware that Spike had such good aim. Not even all the quote tweets on that post of mine could have warned me, as if her wasn't good enough a signal. Pretty risky for a film this costly to feature a kid without having any visible intentions to cater to that demographic. Seems like a one-way ticket to flopping. No wonder why there aren't many other films like it. That's both an observation and a compliment. Not that I believe in there being such a thing as a kids film, only good and bad ones. Age-based categories only create distance between people regardless of their age and the art they might need, and I think they should be abolished. It'd even be arguable to refer to this one as a kids film. One of the reasons being its sense of humor. Not that it's suggestive or unappropriate. It's the irony, the awkwardness between this clumsy bunch, things you're less likely to really pick up on or actually enjoy as a fourth grader. One of the creatures says, "You got a problem? Eat it." And if I were a kid, that'd be a traumatic milestone. Couldn't be me. Made me laugh, just like Carol falling under the weight of his own body like the sad mascot he is. The movie still finds its fear factor in its emotional unpredictability. The first act is pretty much spent establishing those constant mood swings, which are prone to get on some watchers' nerves, but I'd swear that the film's purposely onto some dramatic realism by making the kid go from prompting a snowball fight filled with glee to sobbing his eyes out a second later, jump scaring me with some of the most convincingly discomforting crying child performances I've seen from a movie of that type. Any movie actually. It's authentic, unconcerned in trying to make him look cute through the tears as many movies tend to. Kind of matches the courage not to write him as universally likable, or at least likable for kids. Would children really enjoy following an accurate portrait of themselves? Are kids in for that kind of introspection? I think they'd rather look up to something, to someone. This movie's not about that, and Max's uncharming behavior and causes of it, loneliness, is so humanly depicted, non-verbally relying on that visual storytelling to do most of the talking. The bigger the elastic ball, the more intense the loneliness. I think adults who claim that this kid's too old to behave this way are either too old to remember or too ashamed to dare trying to remember. I wish I wasn't like this when I was 9, 10, 11, 24. I'm now obviously at the age when I can respect a film for not caring to cater to my preteens and only interested in being whatever movie it needed to be, even if it costed the box office race. The movie focuses on a kid, but it's not made for kids per se. I can confirm that my kid self would have regretted watching this over Harry Potter 6, unaware that it likely would have gotten me just as depressed, if not more so. Not having some designated antagonist to defeat driving the plot is one thing both Where the Wild Things Are and HP6 share in common, aside of being unusually well shot. Its creatures would have fooled me into walking in expecting a few fantasy narrative conventions. No special effects heavy rabbit hole sequence to get us to Neverland. No magical weapon, no big evil monster to kill, just the perfect amount of negative emotions to snowball into another wild mood swing at any given moment to keep you on edge. You're just begging for it not to happen, but you're not in control. The kid's powerless in front of his own emotions personified. The moment you realize it, this dream sort of becomes a nightmare. The moment a monster is making too sad a face, you get a little scared. Like a baby hope doesn't start crying except the baby's 10 feet tall and could rip your arm off. Yeah, that happens. Not to sugarcoat, but this one's got anger issues. That's Carol. He's also Max. He's the recklessness, the selfish desire for attention, to be the most love out of the bunch. You know, nothing relatable. I just know that my kid self would have come out of this one fuming. Not only would have I hated it, but I also wouldn't have gotten it. Neither would my teenage self, or my younger adult self. This was made for present me. The right time was November 2024. A film looking as good as this one just didn't matter as much to me back then, so I'd totally brush off some of the best autumnal natural scenery I've seen in a good while. I can't even call this one a rainy day movie due to it being so outdoorsy. Watching this in any season other than fall would be a deadly mistake. The movie barely existed aside of fading in and out of my conscious every 3 months, yet it cost $100 million to make and looking the part. Not that there is such a thing as being shot like a kid's film, but it is unfortunate how rare movies which could be geared towards that demographic to be shot with such an earnest, intimate, naturalistic lens. Whatever type of film this is, call it a live-action American isekai, call it a fever dream, it's one of the best looking ones. You know what? I'm gonna call it therapy fiction. There's no magic in this film. It's all fake, just like your imaginary friends. The wild things aren't real and they can't hug you. This movie wastes no time before telling you that this isn't about some magical world out there, but rather about some kid who creates his own out of sheer loneliness. You don't need some magical portal or some mystical secret gate to find the wild things. Just like your imaginary friends, they just show up at a time of need, sharing with their creator this insatiable desire to play and be as shamelessly goofy as he is. Sounds like a dream until it turns out that they're merely an extension of himself, including the less charming parts. I mean, the moment Max meets Carol, he's already breaking things, lashing out at his surroundings, with Max's first thought being, wow, he's just like me for real, and joined him, not yet aware of the problem that would later become. It's all fun and games, for now. Something that's clearly voiced and performed by an adult but behaves like a kid is freakish for copious reasons, but the film capitalizes on that discomfort, especially when the main one sounds like Tony Soprano's. Heartbreaking vocal performance, by the way. As much as the wild things look like Whoville civilians gone feral and also tall, there's something heartbreaking about the abundance of soul constantly captured by those eyes with that perpetual glimmer that keeps telling you that those little cryptids are feeling, hurting deep inside. Like you. Like me. Sentimental creature design. It's all about making you feel something staring into those big side eyes, constantly wetting the fur underneath. You just want Carl to get the hug he desperately needs, which he never gets in the end. Let's talk about that actually. Mind if I skip ahead to the part that nearly put me in a depressive coma? It's when the kid's about to leave and something felt off to me noticing that the kid seemed more than fine leaving. I mean, the heart-wrenching lines of goodbyes came from the wild things saying things like,
I'll eat you up, I love you so.
No, the climatic emotional release was not going to come from the kid. Spike had other plans, so I skipped over Carol going berserk after learning that Max lied about having superpowers or something, only to go hide in some cave, risking to miss Max's departure being so focused on wallowing in his own emotions. But in a split-second decision, Carol gets on his feet, crosses the desert, and rushes to the shore in the hopes to maybe fix things. The boat's already sailing, with its rider wearing this satisfied expression from the journey with a glint of bittersweetness, exuding this maturity never seen before from him. Even if it happened quietly, there was a character arc. Now here comes Carol running towards the beach with the scene staging, kind of twisting the knife, making him look small, insignificant, hidden by the boat's sail. Even him moving like someone having a hard time running in a suit adds to the desperation. I feel like I would have done the boring thing of shooting Carol front and center, more conventionally diluting the scene's emotion, forgetting that breaking cinematic rules can sometimes better convey a feeling or drive a point. I also would have done the stupid thing of having Carol run towards the boat to give Max a big hug for us to get that Pixar moment, completely ignoring the fact that him not getting to do that is probably meant to be the consequence of his actions, the wallowing, the self-isolation. It's basically the movie's lesson. What a film. Peak vibes. Just you, your imaginary friends, and the volatile emotions bouncing off between the lot of you. Rightfully cringe at parts. I cringe at the tantrums. I cringe at the emotional self-centeredness. I cringe at the lack of self-awareness. I cringe at my own reflection on the monitor. Maybe cringe is what made the kid want to head back home. Isn't this the point? Sometimes being exposed to your own behavior as an outsider is the key to personal growth. You might not like what you'll see and feel, but that's part of the ride. I'd probably drop several habits of mine if hidden cameras were to be placed inside my home without my knowledge for study. This movie is as close as I hope to ever get to this sort of experiment. Good therapy fiction. A movie helping you towards self-actualization by showing you this unflattering yet accurate portrait of yourself might be a precious thing to have. In this case, it's through this kid finding his own therapy amongst creatures of the night. In the end, maybe a walk in the forest is what we all need. If you're lucky, you'll meet creatures, people not so different from yourself who might help you find your way towards your better self. Wow, this movie really said touch leaves.